Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Judita, and on this channel, we talk about all things mindset. We talk about your beliefs, your fears. We talk about what it takes to be courageous, resilient, all the things that matter when you're trying to create your dream life. Because I'm trying to do the same thing. So I'm just giving you all the tips that have helped me along the way. So today we are going to talk about the role of friendships and just relationships in general when it comes to like your journey, when it comes to you creating the life that you want. Your friendships will literally show you who you are, good and bad. From my own experience, back in college, I was matched up to be roommates with these three other girls. So in the beginning of the year, it was cool. We were all friends. We were hanging out, like I said. But then as time went by, you start learning people's behavior. You start seeing how they may have been raised differently than you just because maybe they're not as clean as you, or maybe like the way how they are in the morning is different than you. Basically, you just live with someone and you will learn so many things about them. And that's exactly what was happening to me. And so me and my roommate, we would get into like these disagreements here and there, and it came to a point where I had met my boyfriend early in the year, so I started to stay with him in his dorm. That's kind of like when things started to go even more downhill. But the moral of the story is, by the end of the year, I was not friends with any of these girls, like with the exception of one that I did stay friends with, but the rest of them, like I was not friends with them, and we would have conflicts because I was more petty back then. When me and my roommates stopped being friends, like I didn't want them to use my TV anymore. So I think what I did was I just like unplugged my TV, because mind you, at this point, I would barely be in that room because my boyfriend was a sophomore, so he had his own room. He didn't have to necessarily share with anyone, so I would just stay with him. So what I did was I took my TV and I put it on my bed. And it sounds so petty now, but I put it on my bed, and like I would come back to the room to like get clothes or something like that. And like one day I came back to the room, and there was like a whole bunch of like paper shredded all over my TV, and it was because I left a note. I believe I left a note on the TV. I don't remember what it is that it said, but I think, I don't remember what it said, but I remember I also like told her not to sit on my bed or have people come over and sit on my bed, because she would do that as well. She would like have her guests come and sit on my bed. So it was just like a whole bunch of things, and she would disrespect me, and I would show up and I would be like, "What's up? Like, what's the problem? Do we have a problem?" Like it was just it was just a lot going on, and I couldn't see it then, but like looking back now, of course I can see how it was petty. Of course I can see how I could have handled things differently, as well as she could have handled things differently. And then not only that, but like I told y'all, there was one roommate who I was still friends with. And I moved out of the dorms and lived off campus my second year of college. And when I lived off campus, I lived with my boyfriend and a couple of his friends. And then I invited my friend who used to be my roommate. I invited her to come live with us as well. So she would basically be my roommate again. And basically, again, that started off really, really good. And then towards like the middle of the school year, it just went downhill. Like her and our relationship changed. And in the moment, of course, I didn't think I did anything wrong. Like in the moment, I didn't think it was me. I thought it was her. Like I thought she changed, and her own, it was her going through her own problems, and because of that, our friendship changed. And then if I remember one day I came home from work, I was working at Forever 21 at the time. And I came home from work, and like all her stuff was gone. Like all of her, she cleared it out of the room. And not only that, but she even took some of my stuff. Or you know what? No, she didn't take some of my stuff, but she used some of my stuff and she just never replaced it like she said she was gonna. So basically I just came back to a completely like different looking room where it was a lot of emptiness, and she never texted me, she never called me, she just upped and left. And when I got home, of course I tried to call her, I tried to see like why she would leave, and then it ended up just being like kind of like an argument where I ended up arguing with her. And like I said, in that moment, of course I didn't think I did anything wrong, right? So it took me a few years to realize like, oh, I definitely see what I did wrong in that friendship. Like I definitely did. Um, and I'm gonna tell y'all about a third a third incident I had in college with another friend, right? Don't worry, all this is going to make sense in the end. So the third thing was I had another friend who I met actually in orientation, freshman orientation for college. So her and I had been friends at this point for, a good minute. And we had the same job. We both worked at Forever 21. I got her the job there, or I didn't get her the job there, but I told her to apply, and she got it. So we were like pretty good friends. And even though we never lived together, we were good friends. We would hang out all the time, and we had similar personalities, right? But eventually, like even that friendship ended, and it ended on a bad note as well. Like I think one day, oh my God, this was so funny, y'all. So one day, me and her had like, we were both journalism, in the School of Journalism. So we had a lot of similar classes. And one day I walked into class, and, my usual routine is I go sit with her. So I go sit with her, and she's like completely ignoring me. Like she literally completely ignores me. And at that time, like my best friend had came down to live with me. So I had my best friend coming to my class with me, even though she wasn't enrolled in college. She came to my classes with me sometimes. So I looked back at my best friend and I was just like, am I tripping or is she ignoring me? And we both kind of just like laughed it off because I mean, what else are you gonna do? So we just laughed about it and we sat somewhere else. And come to find out, like I believe she texted me, and she was just like, I don't think we should be friends anymore. I just feel like I don't like the way you talk to me. I don't like, whatever. She just like wrote this long message, and it was surprising to me because it came out of nowhere. Like she had never told me that I've ever said anything to like hurt her feelings. And if she did, I would respect her boundaries, but she never told me anything. So that came as a surprise to me. And of course, again, I didn't think it was anything wrong with me. I didn't think I did anything. I'm just like, to be honest, like these Miami girls, like I just can't be friends with them because in Tallahassee, where I grew up, like I had plenty of friends and it was fine. But I'm like, these girls clearly are just not for me. It's clearly them, it's not me. After some time, right? I don't know when, but like obviously I started to go through like my own personal development journey, and I started to just become more aware of my feelings and my actions and just all of those things. And as I started to become more aware, I started to look back on my friendships because now at this point I'm down to one friend. Like, yeah, it's a really, really good friend. Like, this is my best friend since sixth grade. So I'm okay with the one friend. Like, the quality of that friendship is top tier. However, I'm just like, damn, like, if I'm losing so many friends, maybe it's just worth it, even if it's just for 1 second to like entertain. Like, what if it is me? Like, what if I could be part of the problem? So I started to just like think about it, and I started to think about like, well, what do all of these things, what do all of these friendships have in common that I've heard these people say? And 9 times out of 10, it was just like the way I speak. It's the way I'm just very blunt. Like I'm very honest. If it comes to my mind, I might say it. Or the way how I might relay how I feel or think about something, sometimes it's just not the best way, right? And I didn't realize it at the time, but like when I look back at like my roommates in college, I realized that I was like pretty much a firecracker. Like I would show up to the room, and if my stuff was out of place, like I was looking around like who did it and why. Like I was just very much confrontational. Um, Not saying that I was the only one that played a part in that friendship going down because obviously a conversation takes two, right? But I know for that situation, I definitely see what I could have done differently. And then for the one roommate who lived with me for a little while and just moved out while I was at work and didn't tell me anything, I could understand that as a friend, sometimes the way I would speak to her just was not nice. And I get that. Like I get it. I get some of the things that I would say where I think it was funny. It wasn't funny. And maybe I could have been more considerate of her feelings sometimes. So I get that, and I understood that once I started to look for it. And that's the thing about our brains. Like, if you convince yourself of something, then that's what you will believe to be true. And for the longest, I convinced myself that it wasn't me. It was these girls. They were sensitive. They didn't have what it took to be my friend. Basically, like it was not me. And because I convinced myself of that, I did not see any problems. But once I started to say like maybe I could be a problem, then I started to see like here are the things about you, Judy, that you could probably change, because these aren't things that I've just been hearing from these friends. Like I've heard these things from my family growing up of how like I'm literally just blunt and to the point, and sometimes it's I just don't really take into consideration what the other person might feel. So I had to really, really like reflect on all this. And even the friendship with the girl who just stopped talking to me one day in class, I was just like, what could I have possibly done? And I think for that, because I never did really get to talk to her about it, but basically, for that situation, I wasn't trying to be malicious in any way. It's just that she had an insecurity. And because she was insecure and never told me what that insecurity was, sometimes my actions would trigger that insecurity, or my words would trigger that insecurity. But for some reason, she just never really, she wasn't open about like what her boundaries were. And that's something that I also realized in all of these people who I was no longer friends with. None of them knew how to set boundaries. And that's the type of friendship that I probably need. Like, I need people who know how to set their boundaries, because I will 100% respect your boundaries if you set them. But I say all that to say, like, I'm going to move this because I keep hitting it. I say all that to say all of those friendships taught me something. It literally taught me who I was being. It taught me that here are the things that you're doing that probably won't work in a lot of relationships, because at some point you have to look at yourself. And whether this could even be romantic relationships, like if you know that your relationships keep ending, they're not ending well ever, like it doesn't matter if that person hurt you. You have to look at yourself and say, what am I contributing to the downfall of this relationship? Like, what could it be? Could it be that maybe my kindness has no boundaries? Because that's what it could be. Maybe you're not necessarily the person that is mean, or blunt, or maybe you're not the person that's necessarily doing something to hurt the other person. But if you are not setting boundaries for yourself, you're hurting yourself, which is worse. So you have to be that type of person to look for, what am I contributing to this relationship that made it end? Like, what could I have done better? Because if you go looking for it, I promise you, there will at least be one or two things that you can find and change. The second role that friendships and relationships play in your life is that sometimes, like, having a good friend make is the difference between like the things that you do or don't do when it comes to your goals and your dreams, right? Because having like that one person that you can talk to about your dreams, and they actually believe in you, and they pour that belief into you, they pour that inspiration into you, they pour the courage and the resilience to do those things. Like, having someone like a friend or even a partner that you can do that with, like, that is invaluable, okay? And I'm literally speaking from experience because I'm a coach. So I'm that person for a lot of women, right? But I still need someone to be that person for me. So even though like I can come on here and I can motivate you guys, like I can tell you exactly what you need to do to get the results that you want to have. But knowing and doing it are two different things. So for me, sometimes I need to have that person too in my corner who's like, of course you can do that. Like, of course this is possible. Of course, you're just overthinking this. Like, I need that person too. And I have that. And having that, like having someone who can believe in the things that you want to do, oh my God, like that literally makes such a difference. Just imagine if you were around someone who never believed in anything. And that's the case for most of us. Like, we're around people who cannot even dream big because they don't even believe that they can do it. So it's hard for you to believe that you can do it when no one around you believes that they can do it. Because if they don't believe that they can do it, why would they believe that you can? Right? If they don't believe that they can, it'll be hard for them to believe that you can. And that's why when you're building like a life that's above average, like, you have to believe in it even when nobody else does. But like I said, if you have a friend, like a really good friend, like all you need is one. If you have one good friend that you can tell your dreams, your goals, your fears to, that makes a world of difference. Because when I'm thinking about something or when I'm overthinking something, like I can go to my best friend and I can be like, here's what I'm working with, here's what's on my mind, like what do you think? And then she'll be like, she'll just give me advice, or she'll tell me what she would do, or she knows me so well that she'll tell me like, you're definitely just overthinking this. It's just a good idea to have somebody who can motivate you, because being human in this human experience, it's just so easy to get lost in what is, okay, like what your life currently is, what your bank account currently is, what your status currently is, what your job status is. Like, it's so easy to get lost in what is, right? And that you forget what could be, you forget what you're working towards. So to have someone there to remind you, to have someone there to tell you like, just chill, like you're okay, you are safe, you're still on the right track. This is just new. Like, to have someone there to tell you that is invaluable. So if you don't already, that's okay. You have to just be that person for yourself. Or maybe you have your mom and she's that person for you, or your sister or your brother. Like, whatever, it doesn't matter the relationship that they have with you, as long as that's somebody that you can tell like your dreams and goals to, like that is invaluable. But just be careful, because you don't want to tell your dreams to people who can't even fathom, like who can't even believe that you could do that, because then it'll have the opposite effect. Okay, instead of motivating you, it'll unmotivate you. It'll make you feel even more afraid. It'll make you feel like even more like, how is this possible? So you just have to be careful with that, because you can have either type of friends. You can have the ones that motivate you and believe, or you can have the ones that have never taken any risks for themselves. So how the hell are they gonna motivate you to take those risks? So choose your friends wisely. Choose the people who you hang around with very, very wisely. Another big thing that I have learned through relationships, specifically, I'm going to talk about romantic relationships in this point, because I have grown so much because of my relationship with my boyfriend. We've been together now for almost 9 years. Yes, for almost 9 years. And so since I was like 18, so you can imagine I've had to grow a lot. Like, I'm 27 now, so from 18 to 27, like I had to grow a lot. And I definitely credit my relationship to a lot of the growth that I've experienced, because being with someone else will, like I said, will show you who you're being. And not only that, but it'll also show you who you don't want to be anymore. Like, it'll show you through the emotions that you feel, through the conflicts that you go through. So a relationship will test everything about you, okay? And I'm just gonna touch on a few things that I personally have experienced. So the first thing is like your patience. You have to literally have patience when you're dealing with somebody else. Not only patience, but like understanding, and understanding that they were raised differently than you. Um, that they were raised differently than you, that they might think differently than you, that their environment growing up was different than yours. And because of that, their perspective on the world is different. The things that they believe is going to be different. And we all know that your beliefs create a reality, right? So the reality that they're living and they're creating is going to be slightly different than the one that you're creating and you're living, even though you guys are together and it looks as if you are creating life together. You are still not seeing the world through the same lens. Like, it does not matter how many similarities you have with this person. There's always going to be disagreements, because they are seeing the world and perceiving it through a whole different lens, right? So what you might think is a big deal might not be a big deal to them. Like, for example, I came from a background where financially, like, the money mindset of my family is just not where I think it should be. And that, of course, transferred over to me. But my boyfriend, he's completely different. Like, his parents are more like financially literate. And because of that, they pass that down to him. So he's just a more, like, when it comes to his money mindset, he has like a really, really good money mindset. And like, all of those things are now rubbing off on me, where I just love how like abundant he thinks. I love how he doesn't have the same limiting beliefs that I have when it comes to money, or that I had. He doesn't have the same limiting beliefs that I used to have, and sometimes they still come up, but he doesn't have those same limiting beliefs. Like, he's just much more like, I don't know, an abundant thinker when it comes to like his resources. And he's the type of person where, I don't know, if he says he's gonna do something, he just does not, he doesn't have fear about it. He'll just do it. And it's just like those things, seeing him be that type of person inspires me, right? But that all comes from how he grew up and how he was raised. And then, of course, there's certain things about me that rubs off on him. Like, I'm a very, very good communicator. Like, I will, like, the same flaw, that ruined a lot of friendships, which is my honesty and my bluntness. I learned how to kind of like tame that down to where it's useful for me. So I'm very good at communicating how I feel. I'm very good at doing that in the moment, whereas he's not. You know what I mean? Like, he might wait until a month from now. Okay, maybe not that long, but he might wait a little longer to express how he feels, whereas I'll tell you right now how I feel. So it's just certain things that I bring to the table because of how I was raised, and same for him. So your relationship will show you that, right? And then an aware person won't make these differences a problem. Like me being as aware as I am, yes, of course we still get into arguments here and there, but we have a better understanding of like, clearly you're working off of a perspective and off of beliefs that are ingrained in you, and I am working off of perspectives and off of beliefs that are ingrained in me. So we have to come to a middle ground where it's like, maybe it's not necessarily that you're wrong, maybe this is just what you believe, and because you believe in it so much, your actions follow this, you know, and then vice versa. So you have to have that patience to really try to understand, why are we thinking differently on this, or why would you do that, like why would you take action on this thing in that way when I would do it a completely different way. Like something that my boyfriend says all the time is, well, I would do it this way, and I tell him like, but I'm not you. Like I'm not you, I'm not going to do it the way you want it done, and if you want it done your way, then you have to do it yourself, right? That's just what makes sense. So you have to have that patience and understanding. Last point I want to make is something that you've probably heard over and over again, which is that you are going to become like the people you spend the most time with. Okay, so choose very, very wisely. Okay, because think about this, if you hang around people who have nothing going for themselves, who are lazy, unproductive, who are just fine with a mediocre life, if you hang around those type of people, that's the type of person that you're going to be. That's the type of person that you're going to become, right? And even if you are that one friend out of all your friends who have bigger goals and bigger dreams, eventually being around people like that will bring you down, right? And that's why there's like a natural like falling away that happens as you grow. Like as you grow and ascend to different levels, not only personally, but like spiritually, mentally, business wise, as you grow, you are going to stop hanging around people, and it'll just happen naturally because those people won't impress you anymore. Like there's just certain people that I don't want to hang around with because the conversations aren't conversations that I want to have anymore. Like I don't care to talk about people, I don't care to talk about mundane things. Like I'm the type of person where I'm like, let's get deep. What are your goals? What are your dreams? Like how close are you to achieving the things that you want? What's stopping you? What are your fears? Like I'm that type of friend, right? And those are the type of friends that I want. Those are the type of people that I want around me and in my circle and in my space, right? And naturally the people who aren't like that, they fall away because I lose interest in them, or they might lose interest in me. Like they don't even understand me anymore. So that's gonna happen naturally to you. Like you just, there's just gonna be certain friends where you just don't connect with anymore, and you just have to be okay with that friendship, you know, drifting apart, because that's just natural selection. That's how it goes. They either grow with you or they get left behind, and you have to be okay with that. Look at the people that you spend the most time with and ask yourself, is there traits in any of these people that I would want to embody for myself? Because I believe that every relationship should be beneficial. Like every friendship, romantic relationship, there should be some type of like reciprocity when it comes to what you're getting from it. Like you, it's a give and take thing. I think that a good relationship, there's a give and there's a take. There's always something to gain, and it doesn't have to be something like physical. I just mean like it could be comfort, it could be peace, it could be someone to listen to, and vice versa. That's what makes relationships that last, is that you give me something and I give you something. We both equally feel like we're benefiting from this relationship that we have, right? So you have to look at the people that you're around and ask yourself, what am I benefiting from being friends with any of these people, from being close to and hanging around all these people? Do any of them motivate me to do the things that I know I want to do? Do any of them motivate me to go after my dreams, right? Ask yourself this, because if your circle isn't like anything that you want to be like, then you have to find a new one. Like you have to find a new tribe, you have to find new people to be around, because you won't get very far being around people who don't want to get very far. Like eventually you'll start to be okay with the mundane. You'll start to be okay with just accepting things that are below what you actually desire, because no one around you is trying for more. So why would you? Like where would you find that inspiration? Right? And sometimes you do have to just be, like I said, the strongest one in your friend group, and you just have to do it alone, and that is okay too. There is so much that your relationships can teach you on this journey. And I truly believe that relationships are literally meant to hold a mirror up to you and show you exactly who you're being, or even to show you who you want to be, right? So you pick and choose who you're close with. Pick and choose who you surround yourself with on a daily basis, because those are the people that you're going to become like. And also, like, when things don't go as planned in your relationships, when things fall apart, when people fall away, evaluate. Like, don't be afraid to evaluate. Is there anything that I could have done better? Who was I being in this friendship? Who was I being in this relationship? Did I have boundaries? Did I cross their boundaries? You know what I mean? What was reciprocated in this relationship, or how was it beneficial to both of us, or maybe it wasn't beneficial to both of us, and in what ways? So don't be afraid to like analyze those things, because that's how you learn and that's how you grow, right? But first you have to look and you have to tell yourself, maybe there was a problem, maybe there was something that I could have done better. And once you open that possibility in your mind that there's something that you could have done better, then it'll be easier to look for those things. It'll be easier to say, you know what, I could have been a better person in this instance. I could have done this better, or I could have listened better. That is it for today's video. I hope you boomed today, because I know I did, and I will see you guys on the next one.